block. So I think, Rhonda, are we okay to start?
We're ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to mute everyone and remind you that if you have a question, you can type it in the comments and we'll get to as many as we can at the end of this session. My name is Carlton Hughes and I'm part of the Conference Planning Committee and faculty, and I'm hosting this session. Very glad to host this session. And I am hosting Miss Rhonda Dragomir, and I've known Rhonda for years. It took me a while to learn how to pronounce that last name, but I did, and that's pretty cool. and so I want to introduce Rhonda. Rhonda is the webmaster extraordinaire for Kentucky Christian Writers. All the stuff that you've seen online is Rhonda's work, and it's done with the professionalism and excellence, and we're so happy to have her on board. She's also obviously a writer, and she has been Serious Writer of the Year for the Serious Writer organization, and she currently is a finalist in this year's ACFW Genesis contest for historical romance, which is awesome. And we've been talking. She's also a comedian, and one of these days she might do Harleen for us. You never know. But we're very excited, and she's going to do Websites for Writers Part 1. And I'm going to, I think she's unmuted. And so I'm going to turn it over to Rhonda. Here you go, Rhonda.
I am. It's a dangerous thing to unmute me, Carl.
Unmute. Yeah.
But we're going to have a lot of fun today. And I want to remind you, those of you that are checking in, I see 32 participants so far. This is for basic, I don't know anything about websites. If you already have a website and you're pretty well on your way with a website, you might want to visit one of the other workshops and come back. At 1:30, I'll be teaching part 2 of this seminar. And I know that there are a lot of questions. I used to mash this all into one presentation, and it was too much. I saw people going like robots that lost their power supply, I got that a lot. So I divided it into 2 sections. And today we're going to start just with section number 1, and we're going to talk about why you need a website. We're going to talk about how you can get started in building a website. And then in workshop number 2, we're going to talk about content and what the design is supposed to look like and how it functions. So that's all going to be in my second session today. I'm going to go relatively quickly, and I want to remind you, we are recording all of this. So I know I may throw out technical terms that you don't understand. That's fine. Watch this video later and slow it down. You can pause me. You can mute me. My husband wants a mute button, but he doesn't have one. I have not given him one. And you can do some research into exactly what it is I'm talking about. So we're going to get started. Once I get started, I cannot see the questions in the chat. That's one of the features about Zoom that I haven't figured out yet. When I start my presentation, if your little gallery view covers up some of the slides, at the top of the screen, there's a 100% view option that you can enable so you can see all of the screen. So here we go. We're going to share my PowerPoint, and this is called Website for Beginners. Websites for Beginners. And what did it just do? Look at me. I don't even look like I know what I'm doing. There we go. Websites for Beginners. So in the chat, just put up how many of you, if you have a website, put it there in the chat so we can kind of get to know each other a little bit. If you already have a website but you don't like it, you can put that in. Just put in a frowny face. Everybody will know you have a website but you don't like it. Lots of people are in that boat. So we want you to have a website that you love. But the first thing I want to say to you, some of you may not even know that writers need a website. And if you did not know that and you logged in, you are in the right place. Because I'm going to tell you right now why, if you're a writer, you need a website. The first thing I will say is it provides a professional online presence, Your website says to readers who might be looking at your book on Amazon, it says to agents and editors that you're submitting to, I am a professional writer. I don't write in my pajamas at midnight. Maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I want to be a professional writer. It's more than a hobby. It's more than a desire. it is something I really plan to do. A website is very crucial to your success in marketing. And when I was listening to Bob's message, when you've written something, do you want someone to read it? Hello, I do. So if I want someone to read what I've written, I have to learn to market my own book. And your website is really one of the best ways you have of marketing. It allows you to develop an email list. You want a group of people that you can communicate with and that you're certain are interested in your message. And if you don't have an email list yet, you need to start an email list. I just finished writing my first book proposal, and I worked with a professional who helped me in the marketing section. And one of the areas where I realized I'm a little bit weak, I need more people on my email list, and a website will let you do that. The nice thing about a website, it is content that you own and you control. How many of you are afraid of Facebook or Twitter shutting you down because your message might not go along with the message that they're trying to promote? That happens. But nobody, well, hopefully a hacker doesn't get in there, but you own the content that is there. It is your brand on your website. It should be home base for your social media. And I want you to think of your website as home base. You know, Facebook may be first base, Twitter may be second base, Instagram may be third base, and you can get followers there. All of those other social media websites, outlets though, you want them to go to your website. That's when you score, when they cross home base. If they get to your website, you've done your job on social media platform building. Websites also serve as a writing prompt. Many times I have known my website, I need to say something, particularly on my blog. What am I going to say? You know, some people sign up for writing prompts. I never have to do that. I am so busy writing stuff for my website and social media. I don't need writing prompts. I get them every day just in my natural workflow. A website also showcases your skill as a writer. Friends, Romans, countrymen, please do not post anything on social media or on your website if it's not well written. And I don't just mean correct grammar. I mean appropriate to your genre and content that really represents you well. Because your website should say, this is me. You know, I went to watch The Greatest Showman, and I love that song, This Is Me. Well, your website says, this is me, and you want it to make a good impression. So you may say, I don't have a website, Rhonda. I don't know anything about technology. I'm doing well to connect to this webinar on Zoom. Okay, do not be afraid. There are several options you have. One is to hire a professional. And I have designed websites for other writers in the past, people who did not feel confident to do their own. I have some experience in doing that, but I will tell you, it is expensive. It is expensive to hire a professional to do your website. For some of you, that might be a good investment. But my job here today is to show you how you can do it. And if I can do it, folks, I think you can do it. I'm not, you know, smarter than the average bear. I'm just like you. And I think there are ways that you can build a website yourself. But if you need to hire a professional, that's okay. You can use an integrated website builder. I investigated Wix. I did not like Wix. That was me personally. Some people love Wix. You can try Squarespace. You know, a lot of web hosts companies, and we're going to talk about a web host if you don't know what that is. A lot of web hosting companies have an integrated website builder. I mean, they have their own program that they offer you to build a website. Some of them are great. Honestly, some of them stink. Okay, that's just the way it is in the wild world of the internet. There are things that are huge success, and I have used website builders before. I found them extremely clunky. I have found for me what I think is the best way, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. And that is WordPress. Learn WordPress, and you can do your website on just about any web host. And that's what I'm going to focus on today, is I'm going to really pitch to you the idea of using WordPress. I have used Adobe Muse, which I had to go and cry in a corner when Adobe decided to stop supporting it. The reason they decided is because WordPress is free. How can you compete with a price per product website builder when WordPress is free? And I want you to start, I'm going to talk to you about that in a minute, but I want you to think of yourself. If you are a writer, you are a business. You are a self-employed business owner. You may not dress in a suit when you go to sit at your computer. You know, I'm lucky to get fully dressed some days, I'll just be honest. But you are a self-employed business owner. You want people to know your services. You want them to know what you do. You want them to know your product, and you want them to find your office. Imagine you were going to do replacement windows, and you're like, I need replacement windows. You go out on the internet and you search for companies that do replacement windows. If I'm a replacement window vendor, then I want you to find me on the internet so you know what I do and I can compete for your business. If you're a writer and you don't have a website, you're not even in the game yet. Okay, so you need a website and you need to think like a business. You want to advertise, and your website is the way that you advertise. Now, the very first thing, if you're a business owner, the very first thing you do is name your business, right? Rhonda's Window Replacements, you know, and I do not want to be in that business, I'll tell you right now. But when you are a writer, you will name your website. It is called a URL, your domain. You may have heard this language. It is the name of your business on the internet. And here's a great hint. Use your name because you are your business. So my website is rhondadragomir.com. Now, you may not be able to say Dragomir. You may not be able to spell Dragomir, but I have advertised myself as rhondadragomir.com. Thankfully, there's no pronunciation judges on the internet because most people would never get it. Even at doctor's office, they come out and they call out Rhonda instead of Mrs. Dragomir, Rhonda. Okay, if it's possible, buy the .com URL of your name with no spaces. So there's nothing in between. It's just rhondadragomir.com. Now, if you have a more common name, I honestly think I'm the only Rhonda Dragomir in the universe. But if your name in that way is already taken, then add the word writer or author to your name. So you could be Lisa Jones author or Lisa Jones writer. Do you see what I'm saying? Because you want, if people say, I read this great book and it was by this Lisa Carter lady who's an author, let me find her. Okay, so you're going to go to Google, right? You're going to search her name. Okay, if your domain comes up with writer or author in your domain name, they are more likely to find you. But don't get creative. Don't be marcywritesdragons.com, okay? You want to keep it simple because the simpler it is, the more clear your brand is, okay? So you don't want to be Marcy's Mystical, you know, you want to be, have a name for your business that tells people who you are, and nothing is more personal to you than your name. So don't let your domain expire. Some of you may have a domain already. It's registered on one web host and you want to move to another one. This happened to me recently, and I will tell you I have a second website. It is dragomirgroup.com, where I talk about services that I offer to other writers. That domain was set to expire. I was mad at the web host. I did not want to renew my domain. I talked to a tech person who did not know what they were doing. I tell you, they exist. There are tech people that don't have a clue what they're doing. Said, that's fine. Let it expire. And after it expires, you can transfer it. Guess what? You can't. My web host people that had my domain, it was going to be hundreds of dollars for me to reclaim. I paid over $100 to get my domain back, and I didn't want to lose it. So don't let your domain expire. If you want to transfer your domain from one web host to another. It cannot expire in the next 30 days, and it cannot be expired. So once you get that domain, it's treasure. Lock it up. Be sure that you have it permanently. You might want to register an extra domain. I named my blog, and my blog name may be changing, but I named it Find the Pony, because when there's a lot of manure, you just got to keep shoveling, right? So I named it findthepony.blog. Findthepony.com was already taken. I named it findthepony.blog, and then I pointed that domain at the blog on my regular Rhonda Dragomir site. So I can advertise my blog separately from my website. So you may want to register extra domains. Be consistent, though, in naming yourself. If you go out and look for me, and I hope you do, if you go out and look for me, you will find Rhonda Dragomir on Instagram, on Twitter, Rhonda Dragomir author page on Facebook, and be very consistent in naming yourself, because that helps people transition from one platform to another. So you have to name your business, and you have to name it well. Now, if you were a business, you would want them to know that your business is located at an address, right? If they're walking in to get your business. Well, if you're going to think about yourself as having a website, where is your office? Well, that's what your web host is. Your web host is the entity on the internet that stores or houses your office. Your office is your website, the files that go inside your website. So your web host is where the files are stored on their server. All right. I don't have a big enough server for my website. I rent office space at a web host. When people search for your domain, your internet browser, in all of its magical wisdom, searches for you across the wide world of the World Wide Web and finds your website at your web host. So your web host company is very important. Now, I want to caution you, and I told some people they made an enemy of the wrong person. And this is why. I'm going to expose a scheme that trapped me like a fly in a spider web, and it was tough for me to get loose. WordPress, I heard people say, oh, you're going to do a website? You need to learn WordPress. I'm like, okay. I went to WordPress.com, right? Wouldn't you? I did. I went to WordPress.com. It is so hard to teach with nobody saying, oh, yeah, that was me too. Okay, you can say that in the chat. But WordPress is free. You get WordPress at wordpress.org. It is a multi-source program that is free to everybody on the internet. But I went to wordpress.com, and the .com domain usually means it's a business. And wordpress.com is just another web host company. They are the spider web. You are the fly. They want you to come in when you've been told build a WordPress site. They want you to come in and join them and pay for their web hosting. But if you comparison shop, which I urge you to do, you will find out that the same services they offer can be purchased for less on other web host companies. And they were the ones that nailed me. And I registered my domain there, and then I couldn't get it back without paying them lots of money. Okay? If you want to do your website on WordPress.com, knock yourself out. But don't go there ignorantly, because you've been warned now that they are just another web host company. And I sure hope somebody from that company watches my video. But anyway, comparison shop. Prices and features vary from one web host company to another. The features that I say are really worth having are a free domain. A lot of them will let you register your domain for free. They will give you a free security certificate, which in the Wild West of the internet world is an important thing. So you want to also know, I will personally recommend, these are companies I have worked with. I like them. I've used their tech support, and they work, and they're not expensive. One is called HostGator. That's where my personal website is. There is a company called One and One, or Ionos. They're in a name change. That is where the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference site is hosted. I love them. They're inexpensive and they have great technical support. I've also heard really good things about Bluehost. And I'm going to say something here because I believe there is some privacy. But there is a major web host that people use that is the largest host of internet pornography in the world. And I'm not going to name their company. I'm just going to say, if you've ever watched their Super Bowl ads, you know who they are. I'm a person of conscience. I want to support businesses that at least perhaps, well, let's just say this, their expressed values do not contradict my own expressed values. And if you're with them, I do not judge you. But I will say, if you are going out shopping, shop in a store that at least perhaps has the same values as you do. So that is a web host. This is just a screenshot of HostGator, and that little gator is, but you can see they have different prices. Their starter plan, when I did this screenshot, and you may get different prices today, but their starter plan was $5.95 a month. Their standard plan was $7.95 a month, and then their business plan. Most of us will not have a website big enough that we need that business plan. They also offer something called WordPress optimization. I do recommend that. If a web host optimizes for WordPress, that's a great place to be, because blogs, search engines search differently for blogs, and WordPress is very well known for being friendly and a good way to do your blogging if you blogged. So, all right, you have a web host and your website is built. By the way, Carlton, please break in if there is any question. Okay, I'm going to stop right here and just ask, are there any questions in the chat, Carlton?
Yes, we've had a couple. One was about where can you purchase your domains, and I think you answered that.
Okay, well, I will just say it's easiest for you if your domain is purchased and registered at your web host company. So HostGator owns my domain, my Rhonda Dragomir domain, and that's also where my website is. And the domain is free. I don't know why you'd pay for it somewhere else.
Okay. We had a question. What about a Google business website? Is that a good option or not?
I don't know nothing about Google. I use Gmail, and I love the Google browser, but I've never, I hesitate to recommend something I've not ever used. And I honestly don't know about Google.
Okay. If we have our domain through GoDaddy, can we get it back and go with another web host?
I will tell you this. If you have your domain registered with any web host, it is possible to transfer it. And you start a transfer at your new web host. So if I was going to transition my site, let's not even just mention GoDaddy. If I'm on Network Solutions and I want to go over to HostGator, I talk to the HostGator people, I buy a web package, and I let their tech people help me transfer a domain. Listen, it's not a simple process, and it's hairy, and I've needed a razor a time or two, okay? It is a really complicated process. So if you want to transfer your domain, buy a web host package and let their tech support people help you transfer that domain. All right, I want to keep working because I've got a lot to go through, but I'm going to pause again for questions in a few minutes.
Okay.
Now, you have your web host, you have your domain. What do you have to do? Well, you have your office, you rented it, but it's empty. What do? Well, first of all, you have to furnish your office. That is by you build your website by creating files with words and with images that use an internet language called HTML. I have no idea what HTML means. I only know I don't do HTML. I don't speak HTML. I still don't. And I've built a lot of websites. So if you don't know HTML, don't worry. Just use software like WordPress that helps you build a site without knowing HTML. And you don't have to know anything about coding or anything like that. You don't have to be a tech geek to build a website. You have to know words, which if you're a writer, I hope you know words, and you have to know images. And images are another whole workshop, but words and pictures is what makes a website. So you can use software, and the premier software for building websites is WordPress. And I'm going to tell you, before we're done, I'm going to tell you how you can learn to build a website for free. My favorite word, FREE, free. For free, you can learn how to build a WordPress website. I'm going to show you how. So one thing you can do is what I did. I'm like, I need to know WordPress. Rats. I already know Muse, but I need to know WordPress. You just go out and search for tutorials. That's what I did. And a lot of them come up with words that honestly just make me tilt because I'm a visual learner. I learn by watching. Some people learn by reading. I learn by reading some, but I learn best by watching. And I found a tutorial that taught me how to build a website using a plugin. Now, what's a plugin? Okay, this morning I had my husband go and get a digital clock and plug it in. And so now it is integrated into my technology mansion here, a regular old digital clock, so I can watch the time today without looking at my phone. So a plugin is something that works with WordPress to accomplish something. And Elementor and Divi are two plugins very popular with people like me who don't know HTML. And one of the best ways to learn to use Elementor, and the best videos I found, I mean, it was like mining, and I came up with a great big Hope Diamond, okay? It is in your handout. By the way, I hope you have downloaded the handout because it has a lot of links and good information. You visit a website called Tyler.com. And Tyler has, I think he's up to 32 videos now that go step by step. His video used to be an hour long, over an hour long, all in one big thing, smart. He broke it down. And he teaches you, it says, how to build a WordPress site, step by step, no steps left out. How many of you want that? I wanted that bad. So I watched his video and learned WordPress. Now, sometimes I have to go back and watch again because I'm like you, I don't always hang on to all the information that I have. But I advise you, even if you don't decide to do what he does, to go and see what he does on Tyler.com. You'll know because Tyler has branded himself with lime green. Okay, and you see that button that says Learn How? It's wonderful. See the button that says View Templates? He gives you for free templates that you can plug into your website. I built the Kentucky Christian site using Tyler's templates, okay? And I'm giving away for free secrets, you know, that you can have and build your own website. Now you may say, how does he do that? Is he just like the nicest guy ever? No, he is an associate at HostGator. So the first few videos are going to show you how to sign up on HostGator and to use his special code to get a discount, okay? So he has monetized this process with HostGator. Smart for him, but I tell you what, works for me because I will tell you, I found out HostGator is a reputable, good web host. So you learn how to do WordPress. The next thing you have to do, you have to design your site. Now, in the next workshop that I'm teaching, it's at 1:30 today. Here's my commercial. The next website class I'm teaching is going to talk a lot more about design, but I wanted to just give you an overview. You know, have you ever been to a website and you're like, that's fabulous. I want something just like that. Okay, well then there's something about that website that draws you in. It's just like reading a book. I love this. Well, you have to not just read it. You have to understand, you have to start breaking down what is it on the page that drew me in, right? What is the style? What words? What techniques? Okay, so website design is not something that most people just get naturally, just pull it out of the air. Oh, Well, a good website looks like this. Well, I'm going to give you some tips that teach you what a good website really looks like. And I've seen great writer websites and I've seen terrible writer websites. And I'm going to help you in the next class avoid that terrible category. And I won't name the people who were terrible, but some very outstanding, well-known writers that I know have terrible websites. I'm sorry. But you're going to want to design your site. You're going to want to think about design. What is design? Well, design is layout. Layout is where things appear on the page. You're going to want to think about colors and how the colors work together. You're going to have to think about fonts. And I tell you folks, I'm going to teach you about fonts in my next workshop. Fonts make or break a website. There is nothing worse than somebody who chose some fancy font that does not work on their website, and I have to get out my trifocals. I'm up and down trying to read what's there, okay? I just gave away how old I am. But you want to have a good design. You also want it to function. You know, how usable is a website that does not function? It's not worth it. It's not even worth putting it up there and paying for the hosting if it doesn't work. Well, how does it work? Well, first of all, it has to have good navigation. You have a menu. You have to be able to easily find stuff that you're looking for. It needs to be device friendly. I'll confess. I got on my phone last night to look at the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference site. I discovered a major error in the menu for phones and tablets. Now, I had never really looked at it very much, just kind of cursory glance, but on the phones and tablets, it had the wrong menu completely on the page. People who were trying to, I won't go into it all, but your website needs to work on all devices because today a lot of people surf on their phones. So your mobile version of your site also has to function, and it should be relatively fast. How many of you have left a website, you can put this in the chat, because you got this little spinny thing? You know, website's loading, website's loading, website's loading. I will take that about 3 seconds and then I'm off somewhere else. So the speed of your website is an important thing. And the speed depends on the host partly and their server speeds, but it partly also depends on what you've put on your page and whether it is too big. I'm going to talk to you about that in my next workshop. So you want your site to be creative. I mean, let's just say it, writers are creatives, right? We are making something. And so what elements make a site creative? Well, first of all, the mood. You know, when your homepage comes up, what emotion does it evoke from me? And I'm going to teach you about mood. The graphics are part of the creativity. Are they humorous? Are they intense? Are they romantic? They have a mood, and good graphics will make a website. Poor graphics will break a website. I'm telling you, I've seen it myself. I'm not interested in the person's book because they can't even put up a picture that's not pixelated, right? So we're going to talk about that. And then part of creativity also is using animation. Animation is just anything that's animated. We are word people, right? So animation is anything that moves. And something on your website should move. And that is part of creativity. And then the last element in design is content. And I've already said, has enough been said about good writing? You need to have good writing that is engaging, that makes people want to stay. Because one of the keys about website is you want them to come, but you want them to put their feet up on your coffee table and stay, right? Because the more they stay, the more opportunity you have to engage them. And engagement is a big thing on websites. You want it to be interactive, meaning you might want a quiz or something, an element that makes them want to stay. And you always want a call to action. You want them to come to your website to do something, right? You want them to, what things might you want them to do? You want them to read an excerpt from something you've written. You want them to, if you're already published, buy your book. You want them to go to your blog and leave comments, okay? You want them not just to come. You know, if you build it, they will come, maybe. But if we build it, we want them to stay. Okay, that's imperative for a good website. Now, I'm going to give you a hint. You have to, if you had an office and you had hundreds of people in and out of your office, would you vacuum the carpet? I would hope you would. I would. Or I would ask somebody to vacuum for me. But I would clean that office regularly. Okay? And by that and applying that to our website, you have to keep it up to date. You have to keep updating it. If you put up your website even 3 months ago and you've never updated it, hate to tell you this, there's dirt on the carpet, okay? When a site becomes static, also, it drops in the search rankings, and you want to be high in the search rankings. I'm not an expert on that. I will tell you straight up, I don't know a whole lot about search engine optimization, but this I know. If you don't update your website, it starts dropping in those search rankings. There's nothing worse than outdated content. I was on a website recently, and it said, coming in 2015. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Click, I'm on to another site, right? I will give you a little hint here in case I forget in my next workshop. If you go to my website, it will tell you that I was married in 1978. It will not tell you I've been married 42 years, because 42 years gets out of date. 1978 is 1978 forever, good, bad, or ugly, okay? So if you use a date reference rather than a number of years reference, your site will look fresher, and most people can do math, okay? So, but you want your content to be fresh. You want to prepare your office like you were having traffic in and out of your office every day. Every day, I want somebody in my office, my website, looking around. So just like if I were having guests over to my home, and you are a guest in my home today, you see a big black screen behind me, it's because my husband's office is also in my office, and his desk isn't company ready, all right? So I've got a big black screen there. But I want my website clean and ready. Now, disclaimer, you go to either of my websites today, and I hope you will. You're free to do that. Don't look too closely, because, you know, there's some meatballs behind the potted plants. There are some things I want to change about my websites, things I'm not happy about. And I worked really hard to try to make my website just ready for company. Well, it sort of kind of is, but there are still some things that I want to change. And that is part, you can't just make a website and park it. Now, we're going to finish here a little bit early, and I'm going to have time for lots of questions. So please stay on and ask your questions. But you might say, Rhonda, this is just overwhelming to me. I can't even think about trying to learn something new. I'm still learning how to write my novel or my book, or I'm learning how to do this, and I'm learning how to do that. Folks, if you are a writer, you're going to have to learn. You're going to have, I am almost 62 years old, and you may all put in the chat now, wow, she doesn't look it. Okay, I'm almost 62 years old. I am still learning. The day I stop learning is the day I die. I am committed to that idea of being a lifelong learner. If you're not, you're in the wrong profession, okay? If you want to stop learning, you know, there are other things you can do, but you cannot stop writing. You cannot and stop learning. So I want to encourage you from the Word of God today. We are the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference. So I am not ashamed at all of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I want you to stay encouraged. Here's the first verse I want to share with you, Philippians 4:13. Wonderful verse. Some people, this is their life verse. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. What are all things? All things. All things are all things. I think that's what that means. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Folks, I cannot tell you, even last night with that menu problem on the Kentucky site, I was on my computer in a frantic hurry saying, God, help me fix this. And you know what? He helped me. And I did something I did not know how to do. And I got online, I read a couple tutorials, I was on some threads that made no sense, but eventually I came to a solution. And if you're with me today via your phone, you can thank God that he answered my prayer last night, because I can do all things, even fix my website menu through Christ who strengthens me. And here's its companion verse. But the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you, what are those two words in red? All things. It says he will teach you all things. Now, this was a verse in context, being diligent in my hermeneutics. He was speaking to the disciples, telling them, don't worry, the Holy Spirit's going to help you remember what I taught you. And that was specific to those specific people in that specific time. But I believe this is also one of those promises that you can lift out of Scripture and say, okay, my advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send to me in the name of Jesus, he sends me the Holy Spirit, will teach me all things. There's lots of other verses that the same Spirit in Romans 8 that raised Christ Jesus from the dead will quicken my mortal body. And my brain is part of my mortal body, and it needs quickening from time to time. The same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead can quicken my mind. And so I believe as we ask the Lord, he will help us to understand things we don't yet know. So don't be afraid of starting a website just because you don't know everything. Because you know what? Nobody knows everything. I don't know everything. If I ever say I do know everything, please come to my house and smack me, because I do not know everything, and neither do you. That's all right. But together, with one another's help, with workshops like this, and with the help of the Holy Spirit, you can build a website. So I'm going to stop sharing now so I can see all of you. Hopefully you're not all asleep. So Carlton, come on back on.
I'm back on?
Yeah. And I'm going to let you, if you have a question, let's do this. We have about 15 minutes left. There are 56 of us. If you have a question, unmute yourself.
Would you like me to share the ones that have been,
okay,
I've been writing the ones down?
First. Let's do
Okay,
that
let's do
first.
that
And
first.
then I could also take some questions live.
And then I can unmute everybody after we do that. So that's okay. And you had a lot of comments. Wow, you don't look that old.
Happy hands.
Okay, first question. What is Mighty Networks?
I have no idea.
I have no idea. Okay, that's an easy answer.
Never heard of Mighty Networks. Let me just say this. There are so many vendors, so many products, so many things out there on the internet. Literally, folks, it is the Wild West, okay? And some of it is great. Some of it is terrible. Some of it is phishing, just trying to lure you in and get you to take a nibble, and then you're hooked, right? So you've got to be very careful out there.
Okay. Next question. When purchasing a package, do you get what you need right now, or do you need to look into the future somewhat?
Okay, let me tell you this. HostGator even, when you sign up, the first year is one price. When you re-up for the second price, it's going to cost you more, okay? So don't expect to get that great promotional price more than 1 year in advance. But when you sign up with a web host, all of the features that are listed should be available to you immediately. You may not know how to use all of them. I had to learn how to use, enable, and use a security certificate, okay, for example. But it should be available to you right away. And the best thing that comes with a good web host is good tech support, okay? And if they don't have good tech support, in fact, sometimes I've been known to call tech support before I even have an account, because I want to know what they're like, because some tech support is great and some is just icky, okay? So try out their tech support, especially if you have a domain to transfer. Talk to them about that first.
Okay. How do you know you need a plugin? Basically, what are plugins?
Plugins are little programs that run in the big program. Okay. So a plugin, I'm trying to think of, I've used Office as an analogy here. A plugin might be the little labeler I have that puts labels on my filing cabinet. I have one of those, you know, the Brother thing, and it prints out these nice, neat labels that you don't have to print. Okay, so a plugin helps you do something easier. Elementor is a plugin, and what it does is it changes my WordPress interface so I can just drag stuff. It's a WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get editor. So when I'm editing my website, what I see when I'm working on it is what comes up on the page, right? And this is something that was real important to me. I have another plugin called WP Forms. Okay, so on the website, I didn't have a good way of making forms. I didn't know how to make forms. I got on Google. I found somebody said, hey, use WP Forms. I download the plugin, I activate it, and I will tell you, Tyler's videos talk about plugins. And oh man, it was so easy then to make forms. When I tried to do it with just WordPress, I got lost. So a plugin is supposed to make something easier. And some plugins are free and some you pay for. Elementor is free. Other
Sounds
plugins
good.
you have to pay for.
Next question. What does updating look like?
Updating looks like opening your administrative panel and posting a new blog. Okay, that's updating. Updating means, that event is past. I said I was looking forward to vacation this summer with my family, and it's already Christmas. Okay, updating means getting rid of anything that's out of date, cleaning it up, and putting something fresh. I mean, most of us would not greet our company at the door with a shirt that we had worn for 2 weeks, right? But people do that with their website all the time. It is so old, it stinks, and it needs something fresh. So that's what updating is.
I don't know about that shirt thing because we've been in quarantine, so
It smells anyway, right? Okay.
Oh well. Anyway, do you like MailChimp for a plugin? And then there was some discussion. Some people like MailerLite. So speak to plugins for that.
Okay. There are plugins almost for all of the mailing systems. I personally do not use MailChimp, so I can't speak. I know Beth Gooch is on. I saw her here in the attendees. The Mid-South Christian Writers is another website that I do. They use MailChimp. I found they work. Okay, I use Constant Contact. Most of us have to have, if you're going to build an email list, you have to have a program that stores people's emails when they sign up for your newsletter and then lets you email them. That's what an email or newsletter service provider is. MailChimp, Constant Contact, MailerLite. They're all different ones. Just what I will say is get out there and read the reviews, folks. Learn how to read a review and learn how to find a good review. I recommend not clicking on any of the reviews when you type in review, MailerLite. About the first 3 listings on your Google listings are going to be, if you look, it says ad. Guess what? That review was probably written by the person selling it, right? How many of you want to go and buy a product where the review is written by the seller? No, they have a vested interest. So go to somewhere like, I go to PC World magazine. I go to someplace called CNET. I look for reviews that are not put out by the person who is selling the product. But read the reviews, read what other people have said about it, take it with a grain of salt. Because I bet you there's writers on here, you wrote a great book and somebody flamed you on Amazon reviews, right? Okay, so reviews, you have to take them with a grain of salt. Look for how many people use it. One of the things about MailChimp, thousands of people use MailChimp. You can't go anywhere on the internet without using MailChimp, right? So encountering MailChimp, that probably means it's pretty reliable and people like it.
Okay, I'm writing questions.
I did see a question here from Greg. let me talk to you about the free, like Blogspot will let you put up a free blog. I did that with a business where I did their website, and I eventually did, because you know what, the URL, let's talk about the URL. The office address was kind of like, go over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. That's the URL, because it put my name, dot this, dot that. You can get a free blog lots of places, but if you look at the URL, I can immediately tell if you're a professional blogger by looking at the URL. And if it ends .blogspot.com, I know you got it for free and you haven't figured yet how to put it on your website. Okay, so WordPress, he gave a little review there, and he put up the CNET link in the chat. That's a good way to go. I moved my blog off of Blogspot to WordPress, and no, it was not easy. In fact, I did it early enough that I just let some of my content go.
Yes,
And by the way, if you're writing something, a blog, don't just get in WordPress and write it and post it. Because then guess what happens if your website goes kapooey? Any of you ever had a website go kapooey? I did. Okay, and guess what happens to all that content? Ding, it's gone. All right, write in Word or whatever your word processing program is, save it in a file on your computer. Then if all that content that you wrote, and I mean save your About Me page wording. I didn't do that one time, and I liked what I had and I didn't like what I wrote that was new. Okay, save it in a Word file, a word processor file, and then you have it if something ever goes kaflooey. That's an official word for websites, kaflooey.
You had a question. You had talked about the WordPress trap that you had gotten into and how to avoid it. And they're asking, would you repeat that? And which site should we go to use the correct one?
Yes. I told them they made an enemy of the wrong woman. I begged them. Domains are free. Do you know how much I had to pay them to keep my domain with them for a year? Over $50. And I don't know about you folks, $50 to me is a lot of money. Okay, so WordPress.com is a .com business. They offer web hosting. Their prices may be competitive with other people. I will tell you this, I have not typed with my little fingers WordPress.com in a long time because I got mad at them. WordPress.org provides the free software. But guess what? They don't do hosting because they're a nonprofit company. If you go to, I'll just give, for example, even One-on-One or HostGator or Bluehost, when you are setting up your website, almost always there's a prompt. Do you want to use WordPress? And it's clickety-click. I love clickety-click. There's nothing easier than that. When I was putting WordPress, it installs, in other words, it put a WordPress file cabinet in my office for me with one click, all right? And then I can begin using WordPress. So it installs the WordPress program on my web host company in my little URL office, and then I can use WordPress. So I didn't even have to go to WordPress.org and get it. Most of the time, through your web host, you'll be able to download and install WordPress on your site.
Okay, sounds good. We had a couple of questions about plugins. Someone wanted to know, is PayPal a plugin and is Yoast a plugin?
Yoast is a plugin. I put it on our website, and honestly, I didn't know how to use it. I didn't see that it made a big difference, so I deactivated. Another thing is, plugins can slow your site down, folks. You have to weigh, is the value of the plugin worth how much it might slow you down? All right, and we're going to talk about speed in my next workshop. But Yoast really slowed down my site. I did not see a big boost in my search engine rankings, so I uninstalled it. That's just me, okay? Some people may love it. What was the other one you mentioned? Sorry.
PayPal.
PayPal. Okay, there's PayPal on both the Mid-South and Kentucky sites. I use the PayPal code generator to do the PayPal buttons. There might be a PayPal plugin, But and this is, again, I'm giving you a lot of my personal opinions. Please don't send the thought police after me. But PayPal has had security problems, folks. They get hacked. And lots of things happen sometimes with PayPal information. So I have not used the PayPal plugin. And for me, it's just a trust matter. I don't know if I can trust it, right? I know if I generate a PayPal button on their site, there are some encryption and security and stuff that goes into place. And, you know, I'm not even talked about website security. But folks, there are robbers and thieves out there in the internet world. And so security is kind of an important thing. And so I personally, I go to PayPal, I generate a button, it gives you the code, I come back to WordPress, I put in what's called in Elementor, they call it a box or a field, an HTML field. When I paste that code in that box, there's PayPal buttons. It's like magic, okay? And those have worked. And it's easy to update. And that's the way I would connect it to PayPal.
Okay, we have a person who has had a blog on Blogspot and has also blogged on WordPress, which are both free. Does this person need to combine them, and how would a host help with that?
This is a good question because I embed my blog. I have a blog page on my website. My blog is integrated into my website. Some people have a website, and then over here they have a blog. I'm saying on WordPress, which is built for the search engine to find it, integrate that blog into your website. Then you've only got, how many of you are tired of trying to remember passwords? Oh, they're my bane. I have a notebook here with all my passwords in it. If I have one interface where I can go and I can post my blog there, why would I have to log in somewhere else? Okay, so when people are on my website, then they can also find my blog without an external link. An external link is something that sends them away from your website somewhere else. And guess what? When they're visitors in my little office, I want them to stay. I don't want them to go somewhere else. I want them to stay with me in my website, okay? And integrating my blog into my website is the best way to do it.
Okay. We had someone ask, how do you get readers, I guess, from your newsletter list to leave comments on your blog when they receive your new blog post on your phone or their computer? I guess that's the eternal mystery of life, but go ahead and try to answer.
And you promise to name your firstborn child after them. If there is some great answer to this, I wish somebody would tell me.
Yeah, that's an answer.
And here's one thing I will say on my side, I can be generous. If I comment on other people's blogs, sometimes they will come in content. You know, reciprocity works.
Right, yes, yes. Is there a scheduler with WordPress? I think we can say yes to that.
I'm not sure what you would schedule.
I think they're meaning like scheduling blog posts or whatever out there. Like if I type one today and I want it to run next week.
I have not used that feature. You're more the blogger than me, Carlton.
I know we use that with Almost an Author. Yes, okay. Like Johnny said there. Yes, we use it with Almost an Author. We used it with Inspired Prompts. So yeah.
See, in order to have to schedule a post, you have to write early, which I never do.
Right. Yes.
I'm writing the day I need to post it, usually 3 days after I should have posted it.
Someone asked you to name the company that promotes porn, and I think it's pretty easy to figure out.
Just watch their Super Bowl commercials.
Mo
and if you want to know, email me privately, and I will tell you.
Okay.
I will tell you who they are. Let's just say it has a word in it that everybody will be using on Sunday. How's that?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I think our time is up. So I think there might have been two questions that we didn't answer, but I would like everyone.
I'm going to put in, folks, I can't type and talk at the same time.
I'll say we want to thank all of you for joining us for this session. I think it was a great Great thing. Rhonda will be back at 1:30 after the lunch break with Websites for Writers 2, the sequel. So you want to be here for that. And
I will say, I put an email address into the chat. If you want to email me and ask a question, I'll do my best. Please don't swamp me. I'm trying real hard to get my first novel done. But I would be happy to answer if you have a specific question that I can answer quickly.
Yeah.
Just email me at info@dragoneergroup.com and I'll try to answer your questions.
You did have a comment that we have someone here from France who doesn't watch the Super Bowl.
Email me and I will.
That's cool. Email her.
I will
Email her.
expose them. Yes, I will.
Thank you for attending the Kentucky Christian Writers Conference from France. That's awesome. So
That's awesome.
So thank you, Rhonda. We appreciate it. You're getting a lot of love in the comments and people appreciating
you.
what you gave us. And we would like to just dismiss now, and you are going to to lunch on your own, and then come back at 1:30 for the next set of sessions. We'll see you then.
Okay, bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.